Luke 17:11 through 19 is an interesting passage for us because it is one more example of a direct experience with the power of God. Yet, the people who had this direct experience with the power of God remain relatively unchanged by it. That is, the transformation did not make it all the way into the heart. And this is not unlike what had happened to ancient Israel. The Lord rescued ancient Israel from slavery in Egypt, but instead of responding with loyalty to the Lord, they complained about the journey and they began to worship fake gods, right? They saw the amazing power of God, yet they didn't really turn to Him. And there wasn't any gratitude. Likewise today, not everybody who experiences healing or blessing of some sort is going to go all out in their recognition of the Lord. If the pattern of the gospel story holds true, maybe only 10% experience deep transformation. Why is that? As we seek answers to this question, let's look again at the passage, Luke 17:11 through 19. I read it in the more conventional translation, and I'll be reading it this time in the infamous Authorized Boydston paraphrase, which is my freestyle biblical adaptation. Starting at verse 11. Traveling to Jerusalem, the center of all things Jewish, Jesus took the path that straddled two areas known for being outside the Jewish mainstream, Samaria and Galilee. As he entered a village, 10 men who had been exiled to the outskirts of town because of the shame and contagiousness of their skin diseases approached him. They kept the legal distance from him and called out with loud voices, "Master Jesus, have pity and show us mercy." Jesus noticed them and responded, "Go to the priests so you can get the required checkup and clearance to return to society." As the men were on their way, their diseases disappeared, and they realized that their skin was clean, making them ritually clean, their ticket to normal living. One of the 10 turned around and made a beeline back to Jesus as soon as he realized what had happened to him. The healed man was shouting praises to God as he fell on his knees, thanking Jesus. This man was a Samaritan, a man loathed by the Jews because of the Samaritan religious practices and the bad blood between ancient clans. Jesus replied, "Could it be that I'm having a math problem here? Didn't I heal 10 men? What happened to the other 9? Where are they? No one has come back to honor God except this despicable foreigner." Then Jesus instructed the man to stand up and be on his way. And he told him, "Your faith has healed you," most certainly causing those within hearing distance to wonder why it was that Jesus was recognizing the saving faith of a Samaritan. Scandalous. Scandalous that Jesus would heal a Samaritan. Scandalous that the Samaritan was the only one to return to praise God and say thank you. Scandalous that Jesus would publicly recognize the faith of a Samaritan. This was a scandalous event. So, what can we learn from such a scandal? Well, I'm seeing 3 characteristics of the transformed man in this story. And I'm not sure that they are universal characteristics. That this is the way that it always happens. But I think that they are instructive. So let's go at it. And the first characteristic of the transformed is desperation. Desperation. Of course, all 10 of the diseased men would be desperate. They had the skin disease. Quite probably some form of leprosy. And leprosy was, biblically, when you see the term leprosy, that's kind of a general category for skin disease. maybe not the technical scientific terms that we use today, but it was the skin disease. And anyone, leprosy is mildly contagious, but it's a very scary bacterial disease that leads to skin lesions, hideous deformities, blindness, and nerve damage, and that's why people were so afraid of it. Even though their chances of getting it were fairly slim, they were very afraid of this kind of skin disease. And anyone with any kind of skin disease was then thrown into the leprosy category. And they were forced to leave home and to live a quarantined life on the edge of civilization. And such people often banded together for community. And as Jesus happened upon one such community, they cried out to him for mercy. They were desperate people. They were longing for a return of health. They were longing for a return to normality. They wanted to see their grandchildren again. They wanted to be on their farms again. They wanted to join the synagogue worship again, and so they cried out. They were eager for change. And there is a certain kind of desperation in the lives of those who turn to Jesus for transformation. They know that they are in some way broken people. Might we even say that they are sinful and broken people? That they know that they can't make things right on their own. Or to frame the desperation in the 12-step paradigm, which by the way has its roots in an English movement called a first-century Christian fellowship, which in the U.S. was catalyzed by an evangelical Episcopal priest named Samuel Schumacher into a group that ultimately became AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, which is a story for another day, but I want to show you that the 12 steps have their roots in the gospel. And the first of the 12 steps echoes the desperation of all of those who seek for some kind of transformation. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step number one. Well, without a sense of desperation, people are rarely open to transformation. Whether that desperation is rooted in a disease, whether it's rooted in alcohol or sinfulness, people calling out with loud voices, "Master Jesus, have pity on us, show us mercy." Are you desperate enough to embrace change? The second characteristic of the transformed in this story is exclusion. Exclusion. In this story, at least one of the diseased people was also a Samaritan, which would be a double whammy in a community of infected Jews. Samaritans were despised people. They were the brunt of all Jewish jokes. They were the victims of prejudice. They were the victims of discrimination. Now, I'm not saying that there was no cause for this to happen. They did some pretty insulting things, and they acted arrogantly themselves. You might say they had it coming, except in Jesus' economy, the economy that Jesus is trying to get his followers to embrace. In such a world, in such an economy, even those who have it coming are treated well. Regardless of whether they are on the fringes because of disease, or handicap, or poor choices, or bad religion, it doesn't matter. Jesus offers transformation to the excluded. That is, it's the people who have been pushed to the outskirts of society. The misfits, the handicapped, the foreigners, the criminals, those who have nothing to lose because they've already lost it all. Those who find themselves excluded from power and from benefits, they will be the most open to change in their lives. That's because they've been humbled by their circumstances. They no longer have any sense of entitlement. They don't believe that God owes them a favor. Whatever comes their way is seen as 100% gift. Then the third characteristic of the transformed is gratitude. Gratitude. And this is where most preachers usually end up with this passage. This is where I usually end up when I'm talking about this passage. And being that tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day, at least in Canada, it's appropriate that we see this in terms of gratitude again. The only significant characteristic that differentiates the returning Samaritan from the 9 Jews who do not return, the text never says that they were Jews, but the way that the one Samaritan is identified infers that all the rest were Jews. And the significant characteristic that differentiates the returning Samaritan from the 9 Jews is gratitude. Who knows what really happened to the 9? Maybe they all got hit by a truck on their way to find a Jewish priest. Or maybe their families, hearing what had happened, intercepted them and compelled them to attend this giant feast in their honor. I mean, they were most likely grateful for the transformation. They were at least as grateful as the Samaritan, I'm sure, but for whatever reason, they don't get around to expressing it. And the way that the story is told leaves us hanging as to whether they really got it. We do not know about them. They are not heroes. They are kind of just out there. They are a mystery. They are an unfinished story. But we do know about the Samaritan, the one whom Jesus declared to have genuine faith. And we know this because on the basis of his gratitude, Jesus declares his faith to be valid. As I noted in my paraphrase, such a declaration would be scandalous and a challenge to every person who dismisses the faith of the heterodox. The point is that we are not saved by proper doctrine. We are not saved by getting our theology right. As beneficial and as important as those things are, says the theology teacher, we receive salvation by faith, by trust, by relationship. And relationships of significance are characterized by gratitude, always. My own personal theology has been somewhat formed through my interaction with the Eastern Church Fathers and Eastern Orthodox Christianity. And the Eastern Orthodox have a saying that I've come to appreciate. It's this: I don't know where the church is not, but I know where it is. I don't know where the church is not, but I know where it is. Well, what they're saying by that is, I don't know if you're really a real church, but I do know where the real church is. That's the Orthodox Church is how they say it. And I think the same could be said of faith. I don't know where faith is not, but I do know where it is. I mean, I can't tell you where about your faith and what, maybe you got it, maybe you don't. I'm not there, but I do know faith when I see it. While Jesus is better positioned than anyone to judge the theology and the practices of the Samaritan people, he withholds that judgment and instead publicly recognizes genuine faith when he sees it. Verse 18, then Jesus instructed the man to stand up and be on his way and told him, you better make sure that your theology is right. No, he says, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. It's real. It's genuine saving faith. And Jesus declared it so on the basis of the gratitude expressed in spite of this screwed up Samaritan theology. Jesus' generated faith comes to fruition in express gratitude. And fruition is the English power word of the week. If you're building an English vocabulary, it refers to the point at which an action or state of being produces fruit or results. usually considered to be good for you, or good results. Jesus-generated faith, or that is faith that's generated by Jesus, that's caused by Jesus, comes to fruition in expressed gratitude. And that's the key point this morning. Jesus-generated faith comes to fruition in expressed gratitude. How about you? Just how grateful are you for the ways that God has been at work in your life? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best and 1 being the weakest, where would you put yourself on the scale of gratitude? Now, I'm not sure that there is a single proper formula for doing this. And I suspect that there are as many ways of expressing gratitude as there are people. So your expression of gratitude does not have to be identical to the way that I do gratitude. But it should be recognizable by Jesus as gratitude. And I suspect that involves thoughtfulness, words, gestures such as falling at the feet of Jesus, extending grace to others, letting the gratitude define the way that you're going to approach the day, having a grateful attitude, no matter how bad things are going. In 1978, Henry Smith was struggling to find work in spite of his recently awarded university degree. He was doubting his abilities, he was poor, and he had a degenerative condition that left him legally blind. But instead of bemoaning his situation, he sat down and wrote a song about giving thanks. He didn't realize that some high-profile artist would pick it up until sometime later, and his song became really popular in the 1980s. Now, we've sung it before here, and as I wrap this up, I want us to sing it together again. And we'll sing it together a few times. We'll sing it now and then again when we do the offering. But for now, let's sing Give Thanks. The words are printed for you.